Hello and welcome to the potentially most controversial video I will ever make on this channel, where I'm going to go through different categories for each of the 3 most modern Elder Scrolls games. The ones I'm familiar with. I've never played Daggerfall or Redguard, so I can't comment on them. And we're not going to include Elder Scrolls Online because to me it's a different type of game. But yes, I'm going to categorize these 3 games and I'm going to pick which one I feel like did the best job at each of these categories. This is my opinion. Doesn't make me right, doesn't make you right. It's just for fun. And I've been thinking about it a lot and I wanted to just make a short, quick video on it. So to start this video, the first category that comes to mind is introductions.
Stand up. There you go. You were dreaming. What's your name?
No sign of
You.
pursuit, sir.
I've seen you. Let me see your face. You are the one from my dreams. Then the stars were right. And this is the day.
Hey, you. You're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border, right? Walked right into that Imperial ambush, same as us. And that thief over there.
Which of these 3 games, Morrowind, Oblivion, or Skyrim, has the best introduction in my opinion? And this was actually pretty hard for me. I like all 3 games introductions for different reasons. You know, Skyrim's is very epic, Alduin flying down, you're about to get executed. It's all cool and fun and interesting, but I don't think it's my favorite. Oblivion, the Emperor's murdered, the dungeon goes on a little bit too long of the introduction, and then Morrowind is very short and simple. You get processed through customs and they throw you to the wolves. So in my opinion, Morrowind, right here, has the best introduction. And like I said, this one was difficult for me because to me, Morrowind has the best introduction because it is so short, so simple. You get right into the game and you know it's a popular concept because there are so many mods for Oblivion and Skyrim that are all about skipping the intro, getting straight to the gameplay because we've all ran the tutorial dungeon 1,000 times. And that's why I think Morrowind has the best introduction of all 3 of these Elder Scrolls games. Next up, we're going to be talking about the main quest of all 3. So, in my opinion, Skyrim's main quest is pretty terrible. The concepts are great, the execution sucks. It is my least favorite of the 3. Oblivion, I actually enjoy Oblivion's main quest quite a bit because it's interesting and you're not really the chosen one in Oblivion, which is a nice change of pace. Most games don't ever do that. And so Oblivion, you are kind of the side character and that's interesting. But for me, again, Morrowind is my favorite out of the 3. The main quest is interesting, super detailed in lore. The actual boss battle is okay. Obviously, some of that is the limitations of the time. It feels very epic. It feels well thought out. And so I'm going to choose Morrowind again as my favorite for the main quest. So then we get to side quests. Now, I'm not talking about guilds and factions. I'm talking about just the miscellaneous side quests that you pick up talking to people, asking them about rumors, so on and so forth. To me, Skyrim's are pretty terrible. There's some good ones. There are good side quests in Skyrim, but a lot of them amount to fetch me a mammoth tusk, go get me my family's sword in a dungeon. And Elder Scrolls always has kind of done that, right? Morrowind side quests, not very good. I would not put the miscellaneous quests you pick up in Morrowind, I would not say they are very well designed. They're not exciting. Oblivion definitely has its fetch quests, but I feel like does the best job out of all 3 games. There are so many unique, fun side quests when I think of Oblivion. Like the Daedric shrines are all super, super fun, or at least most of them. The painting quest that everyone brings up when they talk about their favorite quests, where you enter into a painting in Oblivion. I feel like there's a lot of creativity when it came to Oblivion and its side quests. And so I gotta give that to Oblivion right here. Oblivion's the winner there for sure. Next up would be guilds. Guilds, in my opinion, in both in Skyrim, I know I'm talking bad about Skyrim a lot, but there are things I do love about Skyrim. But one of the things I feel like they dropped the ball on in Skyrim are the guilds. The guilds are terrible. The Mages Guild, or College of Winterhold, is like 3 missions, and then you're the Archmage, and you're like, oh, I didn't even cast a spell. What just happened? Companions, they're okay. It's kind of the same thing, though, where 3 missions in, you're already the harbinger of the companions, and you're like a werewolf. And then the Thieves Guild in Skyrim is actually pretty good. That's probably my favorite out of all of them. The Dark Brotherhood's okay. And then you get to Morrowind. So I love Morrowind, and the guilds in Morrowind I think are more interesting than Skyrim, because there are hard requirements to rank up into the different guilds. I've had to learn that a lot in my playthrough of Morrowind that I'm doing on YouTube. But a lot of the quests in Morrowind, a lot of the factions are not very exciting. You do a lot of grunt work, which I kind of feel like that's what they were going for with Morrowind. There are interesting quests dotted throughout the different factions, but I don't think it's that amazing. Oblivion's guilds, I feel like, are the best out of this trilogy here, because not only are they interesting, they're creative, they're long, which I feel like is important for faction quest lines, guild quest lines, and you really feel like you've earned the rank, the head rank of whatever guild you're doing. Probably the weakest one would be the Fighters Guild, but even then, I feel like the Fighters Guild in Oblivion is better than all of the guilds in Skyrim and Morrowind. I'm biased. Like I said, this is just my opinion, so feel free to disagree with me, but to me, Oblivion wins this one. Best guilds are Oblivion. Dark Brotherhood mission's amazing. Thieves Guild questline is great. You just can't beat that. All right, so up next, the category is dungeons. Now, in my opinion, Oblivion dungeons are horrible. They're definitely the worst out of the trilogy here. They're boring, they're copy and pasted, every cave looks the same. Iliad ruins are a little bit more interesting. I like the style of them, but I will never say Oblivion has good dungeons. They just don't. Morrowind's dungeons are slightly better in my mind, but not by much. They're pretty basic, pretty boring. There's not a lot going on in them. You're lucky if you find a scrap of paper that says what's happening. So that's where I think Skyrim shines above the other 2 games, is the dungeons in Skyrim, as many of them that are just Draugr caves, are actually pretty good. I enjoy exploring every dungeon in Skyrim. It's probably my favorite. There's interesting loot, there's always some backstory, there are different traps, and the puzzles are kind of stupid, but there's puzzles, there's not puzzles in the other ones, not that often. So definitely Skyrim. I don't know how to point at Skyrim from this camera angle. Skyrim over here, it makes my hand disappear, it has the best dungeons. Definitely the winner there. All right, and then we're going to get into world building. Which of these 3 games has the best world building around it and makes you feel immersed into the world? I believe Morrowind blows Oblivion and Skyrim pretty much out of the water in that category. Morrowind, the people, you're riding giant bugs, everything just feels very foreign and alien, and it really personally makes me feel like I am living in the world, and there's reasons behind everything. You talk to people and they have a lot to say. Some of it is obviously recycled, and that's where I feel like Morrowind's kind of suffers, but the actual world building I feel like is at its best in Morrowind. Oblivion's, I would argue, is pretty weak. You don't get a lot of cultural anything really in Oblivion. It's all everyone is part of the Empire and Cyrodiil. The different towns have different architecture, which is cool. Oblivion's I don't feel like it has the best world building. Skyrim's is actually pretty decent. I feel like the problem there is, I don't know, there's just something about Skyrim that just can't compare to Morrowind. I don't know if it feels generic or it's just not as interesting to me. And so for no doubt in my mind, Morrowind has the best world building out of these 3 games. So next up, we're going to talk about music. And this is very, very, very opinion based, because all 3 games have great music. Jeremy Soule, I think, composed all 3 of them. Sucks he's not going to be composing the next game, but the music in all 3 of these games is great. I listen to them when I go to sleep. That helps relax me when I'm working. So between the 3 of them, I feel like Morrowind has good music, but there's not a lot of variety. And that's where I think it suffers compared to the other two. Skyrim has amazing music. I love it. It's peaceful, it's calm, it fits the setting they were going for. Great. But to me, Oblivion's music is just heads and shoulders above the other two. And that doesn't mean they're bad. It's just the music in Oblivion is so good. Peaceful, relaxing. Like, I'm talking about like exploration music and stuff, right? Oblivion's music, you just cannot beat it. It is so dang good. You feel like you're watching Lord of the Rings with Oblivion's music. So I gotta give it to Oblivion. Next category is exploration. And that ties in with world building and music and dungeons. I feel like Skyrim, in this regard, is actually the best. Skyrim, I love walking around Skyrim. There are interesting things to find at every corner. You know, unmarked quests, weird skeletons posing. And I feel like Bethesda's gotten better at this as they've made more and more games, because the Fallout games are great about it. And Skyrim is just the king of the Elder Scrolls games because there hasn't been one for freaking 13 years now. So exploration, most fun in Skyrim. I wish you could levitate, and I wish you had athletics and acrobatic skills, because I think that would make it more fun. But, you know, it's still the most interesting by far. Next up, for me, is the leveling system. Which game has the best leveling system? In my opinion, it is Morrowind. Oblivion's leveling system is similar to Morrowind's, but it's a lot more annoying. The way enemies scale up with you and loot, and I'm not a fan of Oblivion's leveling. It's better than Skyrim's in my opinion. I'm really not a fan of Skyrim's. I understand they simplified it, and that can be good. And Skyrim's is easy to pick up. You don't have to min-max as much as you might have to in Morrowind or Oblivion. But to me, they dumbed it down so much that it's not fun to level up. It's fun to level up in Morrowind and Oblivion. And so to me, Morrowind just has the best leveling. It's that perfect balance of you still have your class, your skills, your attributes, but the world does level up with you in Morrowind, but it's not like Oblivion where enemies just become bullet sponges and never die, so you don't want to level up. Morrowind has that kind of, not perfect balance, but the best, most interesting balance of all three games. Loot. Loot is one of the most important parts of RPGs in my mind. If you have a game that looting is boring, I'm probably not gonna like it very much. I hate games that throw garbage at you. I hate games that throw randomly generated stuff at you all the time. And Oblivion does it, Skyrim does it, where there might be some few unique artifacts placed, but it is very much, what level are you? Here you go. And Morrowind does have this. They do. When you search chests, it is a lot of times level based or location based, but they had the right idea of hand placing loot everywhere that makes exploring dungeons in Morrowind super cool. Yeah, you might not find a super enchanted glass sword in every single smuggler's cave like you do in Oblivion and Skyrim, but if you do stumble upon a cave and there's a Daedric artifact that you found at level 1, that's cool. You should be rewarded for exploring, you know? And I feel like that's the problem with generated loot, is it's not, you know, you got like a cool sword in a chest, but I don't know. It's not as exciting. I think Morrowind has the best loot system of these three games. Okay, 3 more. So, which of these games has the best, most memorable characters out of the 3? In my opinion, Skyrim fails pretty hard in this. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to bag on Skyrim. These are just my opinions. And some people share them, some people don't. Skyrim's characters are not very interesting. Sorana from Dawnguard is a great character, for sure. Everyone remembers her. The Greybeards are cool. Try to ask anyone if they remember their names. They might be able to tell you one. Balgruuf's alright. They're just, you know, Ulfric's okay. I don't really care about him though. Same with Tullius. There's just not a lot of interesting characters in Skyrim, in my opinion. Except for, of course, the ones from the old games, like Neloth. He's awesome, but it's because he's awesome because he's from Morrowind. Morrowind has a lot of memorable characters in theory. A lot of them, like I said, share a lot of dialogue, so they kind of become generic. But you do have interesting characters like Neloth, Caius. Dagoth Ur is a great villain, a great character. I do feel like it it sort of falls to the wayside though. Lots of characters are pretty boring. I think Oblivion has the most memorable characters out of all 3 games. You have Sheogorath, you have Haskill, you have Lucien Lachance, you have the Adoring Fan, you have Galarthir, there are just so many crazy characters in Oblivion. And I feel like they're so memorable to me. And every time I play the game, I laugh. The guy singing about cliff racers in Shadenhall, there's a lot of heart and love put into the characters in Oblivion. And I feel like there's not as much of that in Morrowind or Skyrim, so Oblivion wins character-wise. Speaking of DLCs, which game has the best DLC content? Gonna have to go with Oblivion again. Morrowind's DLC is actually pretty good, and Skyrim's DLC is good too. Dawnguard and Dragonborn are both fun. Morrowind's Tribunal and Blood Moon are both fun, if Blood Moon's kind of annoying to play, but it is interesting. I just don't think you can beat Shivering Isles in terms of quality. Shivering Isles is like genre-defining DLC, like Blood and Wine for Witcher in my mind. They're the same thing, where they're just so good and so distinct from the main game. It feels like a whole nother game. Shivering Isles just beats all of the other DLCs, in my opinion. Plus you have Knights of the Nine, which is also a pretty fun expansion if you like that kind of stuff. Okay, last 2 categories. I had more than I thought. The magic system. Which game has the best magic system? Morrowind's got the best magic system. I don't care who you are, it's hard to argue against it. There's a whole school of magic that gets dropped in Skyrim. Mysticism. You have Levitate, you have lock spells, you have sanctuary spells, you have so many cool spells that they get rid of in Oblivion and even get rid of even more in Skyrim. You have spell making, which is in Oblivion, and I do think Oblivion did a better job with that, but you cannot beat the magic system in Morrowind. Enchantments are super useful and fun. You have divine intervention, teleporting, recalls, so many cool spells. I love Morrowind's magic system over all the rest. And finally, just for fun, alchemy. We're going to talk about the alchemy systems. This one is kind of a personal preference sort of thing, but I would argue Skyrim has perfected the alchemy system, or at least improved it the most. The UI is easy to use, it's easy to remember what potions make what. I think Morrowind and Oblivion have good alchemy systems, and they are interesting. They're easy to exploit in Morrowind specifically, but Skyrim kind of balanced it out a little bit more. It's easy to exploit in Skyrim too though, but it's more intuitive and easy to use, and that's where I feel like alchemy actually needed something like that, because I remember playing Morrowind and Oblivion and never doing alchemy because I'm like, I don't want to know these ingredients, what is this? So definitely Skyrim, I think, does the best job of that. But yeah, that is my ranking of the Elder Scrolls games in different categories. Just for fun, let me know if you agree, disagree, hate my guts, whatever. It is interesting. I love hearing other people's opinions on this kind of stuff. If you watch this video, you probably are gonna say I'm biased for Morrowind or Oblivion, and I am, because those are the games I grew up playing, but I also grew up playing Skyrim. They each hold a special place, not in my heart, but in my nostalgic memory of them. I love them all. They're all great games. I love Elder Scrolls. This was just a little video for fun. And if you made it to the end, thanks for watching, and peace out.